Vun, imagine this. You walk into a McDonald's. You're hungry. You already know what you want. At least, you think you do. Maybe you came in planning to buy a simple hamburger. Nothing complicated. Just a burger, some fries, and a drink. But then you look at the menu. Big pictures, bright colors, crispy fries, golden chicken, a giant burger covered in melted cheese, and right next to it, a combo, burger, fries, drink. Suddenly, that simple hamburger doesn't seem so satisfying anymore. You start thinking, maybe I should get the meal. Then you see another option. Would you like to make it large? You hesitate. It's only a little more, and before you know it, you're walking away with a much bigger order than you originally planned. But here's the strange part. You didn't necessarily make a bad decision, and you weren't forced to buy anything. You simply followed a series of tiny decisions that were carefully designed to make choosing easier and spending more natural. The menu isn't just a list of food, it's a visual story. Every picture, price, combo, color, and product position can influence what catches your attention first, before you read a single word. Your brain has already started making a decision. A large burger photo can communicate, this will fill me up. A picture of fries communicates, this will make the meal complete. A cold drink communicates, you're going to enjoy this. The menu doesn't need to explain everything. The image does much of the work. Now imagine a completely different McDonald's menu. No pictures, no colors, no highlighted products. Just text. Hamburger, cheeseburger, chicken sandwich, fries, drink. Technically, you have everything you need. But choosing suddenly becomes harder. Why? Because you have to imagine the food yourself. Modern fast food menus are designed to reduce that effort. Instead of asking, what food should I imagine? The menu asks, which one of these delicious-looking things do you want? That's a huge difference. The menu becomes a visual map. Your eyes move from one product to another. Some items receive more attention, some are displayed larger, some are grouped together, and some simply disappear into the background.
Look closely at many fast food menus. You will often see a few products presented much more prominently than others. A signature burger, a seasonal product, a limited time item, a meal deal. These are the heroes of the menu. They aren't necessarily the only products available, but they receive the spotlight. Imagine entering a theater. There are hundreds of people in the room.
But one person is standing under a bright spotlight. Who do you look at? The person under the spotlight. Menu design works in a similar way. Your attention is limited. You cannot process every product equally, so the menu helps decide where your attention goes. Now we arrive at one of the most important parts of the story. The combo meal. Burger. Fries. Drink. At first glance, it seems incredibly simple, and that's exactly why it works. Imagine ordering a burger by itself. Then you have to decide, do I want fries? Do I want a drink? How much will everything cost? 3 separate decisions, but a combo transforms those 3 decisions into one. Do I want the meal? Much easier. The menu has turned separate products into a single experience. Burger without fries can suddenly feel incomplete. Fries without a drink can feel like something is missing. The menu has created a complete package. Now imagine you're standing at the counter. You've already decided you want the meal. Then comes another question. Would you like to make it large? It's a simple sentence. But notice what happened. The decision is no longer, should I buy more food? Instead, it becomes, should I make the meal a little bigger? That's a much smaller psychological step. You're not starting from zero. You've already decided to buy. Now, you're simply modifying your choice. And when the additional cost feels relatively small compared with the total purchase, the upgrade can become tempting. Now let's talk about something even more subtle. Price comparison. Imagine you see 3 options. Small, medium, large. Your brain doesn't evaluate every price in isolation. It compares. One option may look cheap, another may look expensive, and suddenly, the middle option feels reasonable. This is known as anchoring. The first number or reference point can influence how you perceive the numbers that come afterward. The number itself hasn't changed, only the comparison has changed. And that's one reason menus are carefully structured. The goal isn't simply to show prices, it's to create a context in which those prices are interpreted. Now, let's talk about something every fast food customer knows. The food on the menu doesn't always look exactly like the food in your hands. That's not unique to McDonald's. Food photography is its own industry. Photographers, stylists, lighting specialists, designers, and marketing teams can spend enormous amounts of time making food look visually appealing. Because the purpose of the image isn't simply to document the burger. The purpose is to communicate an idea. Hot, fresh, crispy, juicy, perfect. The image creates an expectation, and that expectation can influence your desire before you've even tasted anything. Now look at the colors. Red, yellow, white. Bright food photography. McDonald's has one of the most recognizable visual identities in the world. But there's an important distinction. Not every design decision can simply be explained by saying, red makes people hungry. Human behavior is much more complicated than that. Colors communicate different things depending on context, culture, lighting, branding, and design.
But strong colors can certainly make a menu more noticeable. And McDonald's already has something extremely valuable: brand recognition. You can often recognize the restaurant before you read the name. The golden arches, the familiar colors, the familiar packaging, the familiar product.
Here's something most people don't think about. McDonald's isn't just selling food. It's operating a system. And that system depends on speed. Imagine a restaurant where every customer spends 10 minutes deciding. The line becomes longer. Employees wait. Other customers become impatient. The entire operation slows down. So a good fast food menu needs to answer questions quickly. What are the main products? What comes with the meal? How much does it cost? What are the options? What should I choose? The easier those questions are to answer, the faster the customer can move through the system. A good menu doesn't just sell, it guides. Then something interesting appears. A new burger, a seasonal dessert, a special promotion. And suddenly, the product isn't just food. It's an event. Limited time. New, special, only for a short period. Why does that matter? Because scarcity can change how we perceive an opportunity. If something feels permanent, we can always buy it later. But if something feels temporary, waiting becomes risky. You might think, I'll try it next week. But then you remember, what if it's gone? And now the decision becomes urgent. Limited time products give customers a reason to visit today, instead of someday. Now, walk into McDonald's with a child. The menu suddenly looks different. The restaurant is no longer just selling food. It's selling an experience, a toy, a character, a colorful package, a familiar meal. For children, the product isn't only what's inside the box. The packaging itself can become part of the experience. And this is a powerful lesson in marketing. People don't always buy the product itself. They buy what the product represents. For a child, a Happy Meal can represent fun. For a teenager, McDonald's can represent hanging out with friends. For a busy worker, it can represent convenience. The same restaurant can mean completely different things to different people. Think about the McDonald's products you can name without looking at a menu. Big Mac, McNuggets, fries, McFlurry. These products have something in common. They are more than menu items. They are recognizable names. Branding transforms ordinary food into something memorable. Compare chicken nuggets with McNuggets. The second one feels like a branded product. And once a product has a name, it becomes easier to remember. The strongest brands don't want customers to think, what kind of product should I buy? They want customers to think, I want that product. Now, here's the fascinating part. You walk into McDonald's and see many options. Different burgers, different sizes, different drinks, different sides, different desserts. It feels like enormous freedom. But there's a paradox. The more choices you have, the harder choosing can become. So successful, menus try to create the feeling of variety without making the decision process impossible. The menu gives you categories: burger, chicken, breakfast, dessert, drinks, meals. You don't have to consider everything. You only have to decide, what category am I interested in? And then, which item? The complexity is still there, but the menu hides it. And now the story gets even more interesting. The traditional printed menu is no longer the only battlefield. Screens have entered the restaurant. Digital menus can change. Promotions can be updated. Products can be highlighted. Images can move. And digital ordering creates something even more powerful: personalized interaction. The menu is no longer simply saying, here is what we sell. It can become, here is what you might want right now. That is a very different idea. The menu has evolved from a printed object into a dynamic sales interface. So, let's step back. Imagine your journey through McDonald's. You enter, you see the brand, you see the images. Your eyes move toward highlighted products. You choose a category. You see a meal. You compare prices. You add fries. You add a drink. You consider an upgrade. Maybe you see a limited time product. Then you pay. None of these decisions feels particularly dramatic. That's the point. Good design doesn't feel like someone is controlling you. It feels natural. It feels convenient. It feels like you're simply choosing what you want. The menu guides your eyes, then your attention, then your decision, then your order. Now, we need to be fair. A menu doesn't have magical powers. People are not robots. Customers have different budgets, different tastes, different habits. Many people walk into McDonald's knowing exactly what they want. If you only want a small coffee, a giant burger photograph isn't necessarily going to change your mind. But menu design doesn't need to control everyone. It only needs to influence behavior at the margin. If a small percentage of customers choose a combo instead of an individual item, or upgrade their meal, or try a limited-time product, those tiny changes can become significant when multiplied across millions of transactions. And that is the real power of scale. Now, imagine taking this idea outside McDonald's. Open Netflix, look at an online store, visit a hotel website, open a food delivery app, scroll through social media. You will see the same principle everywhere. Companies compete for something extremely valuable, not your money. Not at first. They compete for your attention, because attention comes before action. First, they need you to notice something, then understand it, then want it, then act. The McDonald's menu is simply one of the clearest examples of this process. It turns a wall full of food into a carefully organized journey. So next time you walk into McDonald's, try something different. Don't order immediately. Stop for 10 seconds. Look at the menu. Ask yourself, what did I notice first? Which product is the biggest? Which products are grouped together? What is being promoted? Which option seems like the best value? What happened when I saw the combo? Did I actually want the upgrade? And most importantly, ask yourself, did I choose the food, or did the menu help shape the choice? There may not be a simple answer, because good design doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like convenience. That's what makes it powerful. At the beginning of this story, we imagined walking into McDonald's hungry. You wanted a simple burger. Then you saw the menu, the pictures, the combo, the fries, the drink, the upgrade, the limited time product, and slowly, your original decision changed. Maybe you spent a little more. Maybe you ordered something different. Maybe you didn't. But something important happened. You went from asking, what do I want to eat, to asking, which option on this menu should I choose? And that difference is everything. Because the menu doesn't just show you the products. It creates the environment in which you make your decision. It organizes your attention. It simplifies your choices. It frames the prices. It creates visual desire. It builds familiarity. And sometimes, it gives you a reason to buy now instead of later. So the next time you see those golden arches, remember, you're not just looking at a menu.
You're looking at the result of decades of branding, consumer psychology, restaurant operations, pricing strategy, visual design, and experimentation. The best designed menu is not the one that makes you feel pressured to buy. It's the one that makes the purchase feel obvious. And that is why McDonald's menus are designed this way.